Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call to order the Budget Committee for our meeting this evening and welcome everyone here. I want to first say that Cynthia Roussis is unable to attend. Lindsay Harkin's unable to attend. I'm not sure about Chris. I have not heard from him. He's walking in right now, so we'll have Chris also. So we do have a quorum. And wanted just quickly to recap our agenda. Want to approve the minutes from our last meeting. Everyone has copies. An update from Richard and any salient select board information. And then the infamous meeting schedule for the committee. Want to talk about that and see if we might make some adjustments on it. And then Lynn's going to touch on the MS 535, give us a high level, and high level is the operative term, review, so we have a sense of how we ended the fiscal year and any salient big items that we might become aware of that we may not be. Wanted to talk about the department area meetings and the reports and the status, get input from the public that is here, and identify our action items and do a quick meeting evaluation and head out. I do not think we will take a full 2 hours tonight based on that agenda. That is my hope, and that is my wish, and that is my goal. Hi, Chris. Starting with that, you all have received copies of the minutes from the October 1st meeting. There was some input for adjustments. I made those, and those meetings are before you. So I would ask for a motion.
I move that we accept the minutes.
I'll second.
Okey-doke. All in favor? Or any need to discuss, I should say first.
Any amendments? Yeah.
Any amendments to the minutes? If not, all in favor of accepting? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Moving on. Richard, your any comments from the select board that we might be interested in hearing?
No, nothing earth-shattering, actually, to report at the moment. I said nothing earth-shattering. We are waiting at this point. I don't know if we've completed at this point if we've gotten all of the proposals for the new building.
Yes, we received 3 responses to the RFP for the DPW building. So those came in today. Sam and Adam will spend tomorrow going through reviewing those, scoring them. They will then hand them over to me. I will spend the weekend looking at them, probably delivering them over the weekend to the select board. And then they will come to, hopefully, next Thursday's Board of Selectmen meeting with their thoughts and recommendations on who to move forward with for interviews. And we'll conduct interviews for the leading firms, and we'll go from there.
In addition, we did hear from Putnam about putting up a new swing set at Elkins Beach. In addition, Chief Lyon from the fire department did a report that we had gotten some nice responses to a request, a fundraising request from the Fire Departments Association that was going to enable them to purchase a fairly decent-sized shed for storage of excess equipment that we need a better place to put it more neatly, et cetera. And so, but that will come at no cost to the town of New London, as it was all raised by donations. Something that candidly I've always found a little bit awkward. I've always found it a bit strange when the fire company is purchasing things that are clearly of value to the town and are important. I mean, these things in the past, I can tell you, have represented things like thermal imaging cameras, which enable us to potentially see someone in a smoke-filled house. If a child is hiding in a closet or something, you would see her or him, you would see their thermal image on the camera. We've purchased things like that using fundraising money, and I've always, as I said, I've always felt a little bit sort of two-minded about that. I mean, it's kind of nice that folks want to donate to the Fire Departments Association, but I feel like those sorts of expenses should be borne by the town and by everyone in the town. but that's just a little bit of editorializing on my part. And aside from that, as Ashley said, the biggest thing I think at the moment is kind of seeing where we're going with potentially having some folks who might be able to provide some good ideas for us about what we might do with the site down at Public Works. One of the things, as you know, that we did ask them to consider was whether or not it is potentially doable to have a dual-purpose site that would have potentially both police department and Public Works. And so that's a particular element that I'm going to be very interested to see whether or not anyone has come forward with some suggestions as to how we might do that, and whether or not it's really feasible. So hopefully that's something we'll be figuring out in short order. And aside from that, did I miss anything of earth-shattering importance at the moment?
Not that I can think of.
Sorry, Chief, do you mind if I just ask, the shed, was I correct in my description of how that shed would be utilized?
Yeah, currently we've got some spatial issues, and so our spare snow tires, we have studied snow tires just because of the inclement weather in this topography in the area, so we swap out our tires at the station, so the spare tires would be stored in the shed. Tables, various things, fire safety props that we use for various open houses. So it's to get some of the stuff that's like in our hose tower, designed specifically to dry hose, and we're sort of at a spatial issue. So,
Sounds like a big shed.
and the shed's actually here, so
Oh, it is.
Very cool.
just have to level it out. It's got a slate can to it right now.
What is the size of it, Chief? Approximately.
I want to say 10 by 12.
Oh, wow, not as big as I thought.
So, as I said, just, and again,
We use it for firefighter housing.
Workforce
We've
housing.
converted them at camp to that.
We could
So
get 5 of them.
Oh.
We call them tiny houses.
I believe it's under select.
my wife was telling me literally just last night about a lady that she knows who lives down in New York City on the Upper West Side in what was once a janitor's closet. And they punched a window in the wall and said, voila, studio apartment. No, I'm glad you asked him. As a matter of fact, she pays $1,000 a month, which, for New York City, that's not bad. Not bad. Yeah, that's not bad at all, so. But that's about it for the
Okay.
select board at the moment,
Thank you.
certainly.
The next item is our infamous meeting schedule, and it's become infamous because we're on draft 4, and you have a copy of that in front of you. And as you all experience in this town, we have impromptu conversations in the strangest of places, and I had one this afternoon as I was getting some apples and Kit Kat bars with Rich Anderson, and he raised the topic of our schedule, and we had a brief conversation about it, and the thinking is if there's a way we can possibly consolidate some of what we have in our schedule without, of course, diminishing the intent of the schedule to accommodate time for real strong deliberation on particular budget areas, that consolidation would be helpful. I think all of us here have the same challenge around schedule. Many who are working in particular are doubly challenged. And so I think it's prudent for us to take a minute and talk about that and offer some ideas. I got here a little early, so I did some consolidation thinking that I'd like to discuss the merit of it and accept any other ideas to then land on a schedule that we're all comfortable with. So in front of you, you see the schedule that carries us through the balance of this year and into 2026. The October 29th meeting and the November 5th meeting, if we were to consolidate, Lindsay and I and Meg attended a library presentation yesterday, so we were doing our due diligence around the famous 20 questions, and that took us about an hour. Richard produced some pretty good information that can be distributed in advance, which is the intention of having these meetings, to inform and then educate the entire committee. So with that said, I think we could combine library and police and dispatch. And my recommendation is to move police and dispatch to the 29th. And to move emergency management to the 19th of November with fire department.
Police and dispatch with library and emergency, okay, got it,
Yeah.
sorry.
And then Charlie, just one thing to note, we've got the Jamboree this Friday.
Yes,
The Board of Selectmen will come back at the Select Board meeting on the 23rd, so next Thursday, with their edits that then we will get over to you guys after that.
okay,
So there's just a small window of time between when we get the edits from the Board of Selectmen and when the meeting on the 29th happens.
yep.
Sorry, Charlie, when you say in here, department area reports, is that the budget committee providing those reports back to the budget committee?
Yes.
The members?
Yes,
Okay.
that's all.
So you would you move that, or would you?
I wouldn't actually move it, I would just leave it as, in our last meeting, we talked about the reports and the lag time between the meetings and the reports being compiled and distributed. How would we distribute those in a reasonable way? And I think where we landed, and correct me if I misstate this, is those reports would be generated by the two members responsible with the respective department lead, and then distributed to the committee via email. And with then the responsibility of the committee members to read those reports. If through their read of the report, they are left with questions unanswered, they would bring those questions forward to then be included in the department discussion when we do their actual budget review.
Okay, so we wouldn't discuss those reports in a session, we would just bring those questions to the actual budget.
Yes,
Can we just talk about that for a minute? But I thought that when we first started the discussion on these meetings with the department heads, it was going to be on the two budget committee members to actually take notes and send that back.
correct,
And so that is still happening?
absolutely.
Yep.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah,
perfect.
we're going to get to that topic later in our agenda.
Okay.
Some member, like I've been to two, some Putnam produced
Yep.
a report, right? And then we took notes and sent that back to him, and it's consolidated. So I think everybody's done it similar, but maybe just a tweak different. My only question on that was if, that's fine, because if we're bringing the questions to the department discussions, then no problem. I didn't know if we were planning to have a discussion as a budget committee about all of the different reports on that date, which I would have said, that's going to take a whole meeting.
Yeah,
just
it
to
would
do
take a
that.
whole meeting, agreed.
Yep.
No.
Okay.
So is everybody comfortable with that process for the reports?
Would you kindly recap the, you know, the,
Oh, yeah, we'll get to the meetings, but I think to Chris's
Yeah, the-
point, we'd scratch out department area reports. That's not a topic on the 29th. My recommendation is to move, and this is selfish, I will also tell you, because on November 5th, I'm not going to be in the country, and I would like to be here for the meeting. But it is not mission critical, because Chris, as vice chair, is perfectly able, and I know willing.
We all miss meetings, so.
Okay, so, but my recommendation is, and I understand what you said, Ashley, about the tightness of that, is to take police and dispatch and put it with the library on the 29th,
police and dispatch on the 29th?
right? That,
I
and
guess I would ask, who attended the police, have we had the police meeting yet?
Karen can speak to it.
Yeah, we had that on the 30th.
Are there topics that, based on that discussion and meeting, that are going to be somewhat, I wouldn't say contentious, but require a lot of discussion?
Yeah, no, it was where Lou and I took notes, and we submitted back to the chief our our kind of interpretation of the discussion and our notes, so we're waiting to hear back from Chief Cobb in her reaction to what we presented.
Well,
So I,
it doesn't sound like it's going to take 2 hours to talk
Yeah,
about that,
it's
so
just-
might as well just go for it.
I don't think there's much of a, correct me if I'm wrong.
Speak into the mic.
Contentious items, I'm sorry, thank you. I don't think there's much of a contentious items in the police report. As a matter of fact, I think, she did say that there's no more this year. She's not asking for an additional, cars and guns and stuff like that. So it's more of a maintenance budget, so.
Okay, so if we combine library, police, dispatch, do that on October 29th, there would be no meeting on November 5th. The committees and associations on the 12th, there are a lot of them. I have found in the past that, and Chris would lead to any of the prior committee members, those go fairly quickly, but I thought that the recommendation that was made by Lindsay Harkins was, let's put a little more time to it, both to understand but also acknowledge the value and benefit of what those groups do for the town. My recommendation is leave it as on the 12th, but let's go through the other meetings. I would recommend moving town administration and the fire department on the 19th. Or, if not on the 19th, we can move it to the 3rd. My concern with doing that is Department of Public Works it's a big budget, and there's a bunch of issues, but whether or not that needs its own meeting, I'm not sure. I kind of want your input and thoughts on it, particularly those who have been involved in it.
19th. So the 19th would be fire, emergency management, and then town administration.
That's what I'm suggesting, yeah. And I think that's doable. I mean, from the sense of.
Actually, it is not doable for, I'm at the NHMA conference the 18th and 19th
Okay, so that's.
of
not-
November.
That's not an option.
Sorry.
I would say based on our discussion, Cynthia's not here, but based on our discussion about Public Works, again, there wasn't really any, like, hey, we're planning to blow out something this year because of, something. It's just more around the building, but that's not even this year, that's following years. So, again, I know some of those discussions end up spiraling into lots of other questions, but I feel like you could combine Public Works with another department if you.
How about, if we moved Public Works with Town Administration on the 10th,
I think that would work.
would that work?
Yeah.
But you're,
Yeah, I think that would work. Interesting, Charlie, you had the misfortune of running into me at Hannaford today, and
Is that a meeting outside of a meeting?
no quorum.
There was no quorum.
No quorum. I mean, that's the dilemma with the select
No
board. We
decisions.
glance at each other, we have a quorum, So conveniently enough, when I was at the hospital just before seeing Charlie at Hannaford, these are the joys of living in a small town. After I had successfully flunked out of blood pressure school at the hospital, I ran into Sam and said, Sam, as it happens, I said, do you mind if I just, so I quickly pulled up my phone and went over some budget things that I had some questions for him on. And he's like, yeah, Rich, he's like, that's asphalt and sand, basically. That's what that line item is. I'm like, that's right. We buy a lot of that stuff, don't we? So to your point, Chris, I think you're right. I don't know that, Sam was able to answer a lot of my questions in a pithy 4 minutes, I think. So I think you're right.
And there's no
In the
change.
cereal aisle, I might add.
Yeah.
So that was,
All right. The good cereal or the bad cereal? The organic section or the sugary section of the cereal?
so with that, can we take Department of Public Works and Town Administration on the 10th?
Yeah, I think that's, or unless you wanted to move town administration to the 3rd.
Oh, either way. I was,
That way it gives us, if we need more time on the back end for any
I like that, yeah.
other discussions,
Agree.
we have more
Okay.
time.
So town
Okay,
admin.
but is that possible, Ashley, for you?
Yes,
The 3rd of December you can do?
yes.
Okay. All right, so we're going to move that to the 3rd. We will not have a meeting on the 10th, and we'll keep the remainder of the schedule as it is shown here. And I think we've got a little wiggle room on the back end of this.
I only, and this is not personal, that doesn't matter to me, but just given that the 17th is closer to the holiday, would you rather have the meeting on the, maybe I just asked the whole budget committee, would you rather have a meeting on the 10th or the 17th?
I'm indifferent, we'll go with the consensus of the,
It does, okay. It's only because, I mean, I just have to get. It's fine, that's what I was curious. Some people have more holiday plans and parties and
No,
things like
good
that, so.
I'm not traveling this year, so I'm good to go.
okay.
Okay, then that's fine. So we'll take a break on the 10th?
We just paid for a wedding, so we're not traveling.
We're not traveling for 3 years. Okay. Let me recap. We're going to merge on October 29th, library, police, and dispatch. We will leave the 12th as stated with all the committees and associations. On November 19th, we will have fire department and emergency management. December 10th, 3rd, we will have Department of Public Works and Town Administration. December 17th, revenues, cap, reserves, debt obligations, and then the balance of the schedule as it sits.
And we will delete, just to double check, we will delete November 5th and December 10th.
Yes,
Okay. Taking them on my calendar.
okay. Is everybody in agreement with that, or are we comfortable with it? Aye.
If you would like, I'm not sure if Lou's available on the 12th. I'd be more than willing to meet on the 12th. That way it would give you 2 weeks off between the 19th and the 26th for Thanksgiving. And by doing that, not that it matters because I'm happy to miss other meetings, but I do have 2 other meetings that evening of the 19th. But I'm more than willing to skip it.
No.
Could we switch?
Could we switch, yeah, fire and emergency management to the 12th? Would that work for you?
Yeah, absolutely.
And then switch the committees and associations to the 19th?
So
And I was trying to simplify stuff, and certainly,
No, that's fine. No,
The
it's,
12th and the 19th? Well,
yeah,
so switch it.
okay.
And then Charlie, I do have the dates in February that we have to abide by for public hearing for the budget.
Okay. Those are,
So Friday, February 6th is the last day to give notice for the public hearing on the annual budget, which has to be completed by Friday, February 13th.
okay.
And then Monday, February 16th, this, I highlighted it, this is more on our side, but I still highlighted it and I'm happy to talk about it, is the last day for the select board to publish notice of time, place, and subject for public hearing on bond or note issues over $100,000. And then Wednesday, February 18th is the last day for budget committees to submit 2 copies of annual budget to the select board for them to post with warrants.
When does what's the drop dead date for printing for the town annual report?
I don't have that date right now, but we have a call into the country press, so we'll find out and let you know.
Okay. Okay, I will add those dates to this
Perfect.
schedule.
Okay,
Then, Ashley, let me send it to you.
Sure.
Give it one more look with feeling, and then we can.
you got it.
finish
Sounds good.
Okay. thank you for your time, input, and patience. All right, the next item, Lynn, if you wouldn't mind, talk with us about the MS 535 and both what it is, and some of the high levels. And I asked Lynn to do this. There was a request also by some committee members to have a better understanding of how did we actually end the fiscal year? What are any of the issues or challenges that may have presented that may impact how we think about the budget forthcoming? And also to educate us so we have an appreciation for the process as well as the content of that report.
Okay. So the MS 535 is a document that is filed with the DRA, and it is a picture of where you ended your previous fiscal year. So we end on June 30th. The MS 535 has to be filed by September 1st, which is a very loose recommendation because ours was filed like the end of September. Our auditors do that for us. So they come in, they get all their data for the audit. They get enough of it done to file this document, and then they continue on with other financials that the DRA does not need to see. So this is basically a snapshot of where we ended. It's a pretty short document, pretty basic. It has the buckets. The numbers that we file with are the same numbers you see on that worksheet that you got with your budget packet. 4130 is the executive number, so it follows that whole document. And essentially what it does is it lists your expenditures and it lists your revenue for the previous year. So this is not the final audit. So some of the numbers I have right now are from the audit. The auditor gave me some information, but he's not done with the audit yet. So where we landed, let me flip to my cover here. The remaining appropriations in the budget from fiscal year 2025 was $14,000. That's what we did not spend that was appropriated. That's a very tight number. There was some additional grants that we had gotten. So the change in our unreserved fund, which everybody talks about, was $18,000. That's how much we added to our unreserved fund. In previous years, we've added $600,000, $400,000. So again, we have cut it very tight. I think that, and that 14,000, if it was with me asking the department heads to stop spending in May. So the department heads didn't necessarily get everything they needed because I asked them to stop spending because we were that tight. So I'm a little nervous about 2026 because Budget Committee, Bill Helm, the Select Board, asked everybody to sharpen their pencils further, which everybody did. I think we're going to get pretty close next year also. Some of the reason we got pretty close is overspending in our buildings, repairs, and maintenance. So Sam, for 2026, has tried to increase those numbers so that we're a little bit closer. I'm hopeful that with the report that him and Adam worked on for our facilities, that even if something is needed, they may push it off a little to get into 2027, because that's where you're going to see the monies for those items, those shortcomings of our buildings. So hopefully we'll be okay at the end, but you know, when there's not a lot of wiggle room, there's not a lot of wiggle room. So that's the general overview. If you have questions on it, let me know. I know that one of the select board members had asked a question, and I reached out to DRA, and I didn't get an answer, but I've been kind of embroiled in getting those budget books together, so I did not follow up. So I don't even remember the question at this point. I have to go back to my email and see what the question was that I asked, but if you guys have questions, I'll happily answer them.
Quickly, and then open it to any other questions that may arise. So the result, if I'm hearing you correctly, is that we're basically ending with that snapshot a fund balance that's going to be not changed that dramatically. Therefore, the ability of to offset the operating budget will also be compromised.
Right. If we add, like the year that we added 644,000 in 2023, so when the select board used 600,000 to buy down the tax rate, there was really no net change. This time, if they choose to use money to buy down the tax rate, we're going to see the unassigned fund balance drop. The unassigned fund balance here is, let me find my page. It's in here somewhere. Ending fund equity, 2.5 million, which puts us at, I think it's 6%. So if they decide that they're going to use money to buy down the tax rate, yep, that'll drop. So we're getting into the low end of the recommended unassigned fund balance by the DRI. But yes, you're correct in that assumption.
Okay. Yes, please.
One thing I did want to just mention, I'm sort of in an interesting position, as you know, because of my position on the MBC for the school district. A lot of the issues, there's a great symmetry oftentimes between the two organizations, the town itself and the school district. This is an example where there's a dramatic difference, and I find that interesting in that the school district, we typically come in at the end of the year. Larry LaBeouf, our business administration, pretty much always brings us in on a glide path that we have typically $1 to $2.5 million in unspent funds. And we typically return the bulk of that back to the towns, the 7 towns that make up the school district, which works very nicely in terms of it gives the administration for the school district some flexibility for unexpected expenditures. We also have a lot of things that we say at the end of the year, if we have unassigned or unspent funds, we are going to put $50,000 into this trust fund, $100,000 into that trust fund, et cetera, to bulk up anything from unexpected special education expenses to the roofs, whatever we might think we need a trust fund for. That money came in very handy this year when just a few weeks back we were handed, and forgive me if I'm being repetitive here if I've already explained this, but we were handed that $900,000 bill from our provider of health insurance, and we fortunately had, and then they came back a week or so later and said, good news, it's not $900,000, it's actually $1,030,000 was the bill. And, fortunately, we had this year a very, a heavier surplus. So we had roughly 3.9 million. And we got permission from the Department of Education to essentially cut a check out of those unspent funds, which meant we were able to handle it fairly nicely. Very unusual, but that excess money came in enormously handy just a few weeks ago. And so it's just something I wanted to throw out as something that we might want to consider, because it makes me, the contrast is rather sharp, as I said here, to see that we're working with a $16,000, is that right? $18,000. Suffice to say, we wouldn't easily handle a large, unexpected bill from our insurance provider. So it's just something, I thought maybe we should be thinking about.
Related to that, does the money coming back to the town from the school, when does that transaction take place? How does it take place and when?
My understanding is that we don't actually send a check to the individual towns, rather we credit their individual accounts for the coming school year. So basically, if Sutton owes, I don't know, let's say $8 million or something, and their share is, let's say $700,000, then we reduce their bill by $700,000. But, kudos to Lynn and the rest of the team here that they can manage to kind of work with so little extra runway. But it makes me a little bit nervous in terms of that. That seems to me to be dramatically limiting in terms of what you folks might want to be able to do.
Well, that's why when we had the DPW building, we could not do studies because there's just no extra money. In years past, the select board said, do you have an extra 50,000, we can start a study or whatever, and Kim and I were always like, yes, we can. Now it's, no, we can't, we have to wait for the budget year when we put that in. Government works best, I think, when you have a little bit of that wiggle room, because we can't tell a sales rep, go out and sell more so that we have more money to spend in this year's budget. The appropriation is the appropriation. You can go out and try and find more revenue, but again, you can't spend more than you've appropriated. So it does get a little tight, and well, so far we're okay, but it could backfire, for sure.
And one thing I do want to just mention, if I may, just briefly, if you don't mind, like Lynn didn't have enough to be doing over the last month, I did ask her if she could put together a report for me, which she was really kind enough to do, and I'm going to be sharing that with you. I literally, when I got in, I flew in last night when I eventually got in, I had asked Lynn to put together a list showing me the different departments and how their budgets have fared over the last approximately 10 years. And Lynn was kind enough to put that together for me, and I'll share that with all of you. I'm going to just tweak it a little bit, only tweak it meaning I'm just going to figure out percentages and stuff, so it's sort of, annotated, if you will.
I can send that to you in Excel if you want to throw percentages in.
If I knew how to do that, I would be very grateful, I'm sure, but I'll be working with my calculator.
Oh, okay.
What can I say? I'm hopeless with such things. But I did want to just thank Lynn for her effort putting that together. I really did appreciate it. And I'm hopeful that in our conversations about the budget, being able to look at those trajectories will be useful in terms of how it informs our decisions, et cetera. And with all that Lynn had to do, I thought it was enormously impressive that she was able to put that together for me.
Yeah, thank you. By the way, I just put a large industrial hot water heater in. It was $40,000. We couldn't buy a new hot water heater for something like the fire department if it went down with $18,000. Just to sort of like put it in perspective of how close we were. We were less than a hot water heater. With that said, you said you kind of asked people to cut down spending in May. What sorts of things were affected? What did you hear? What was reported?
Honestly, I don't know what each department, I know some things that the departments do is if there is something larger in their budget that is not, like, they need it, but they don't need it this year, they can wait till the new fiscal year, they'll postpone something like that. So it's not like they had something that, like, I don't have to buy that, it's not a big deal. It was just postponing it to the new fiscal year where they can then have a little bit more wiggle room or work with their budgets. This year, I intend to do it, hopefully I'll have time, in December and March, and just really stay on top of it. I give them expenditure reports, and Questica is now giving them what their actuals are for each month, but and I always tell them what percentage they should be at right now on some of the stuff, like, we just finished September, okay, you should be at, 25%, you're a quarter of the way through the year. So just going to be a little bit more aggressive in giving them those reports so that they can take a look at it. It also, I think, to your example, that if a large item furnace had gone down, that's also the importance of having capital reserve funds and making sure that those are well funded so that you can turn around, and they're agents to expend, that you can say, I need a $40,000 furnace, can I take it from town buildings? So.
One thing that I think we all should be aware of, and again, one of the things I enjoy doing in this town is emergency management, which of course I'm the Grim Reaper. We need to understand that we need to be prepared, and when it comes to undesignated funds, I think that having a little balance is becoming more and more important. If we end up with a major federal disaster in this area, the towns in New Hampshire, the towns are responsible for the non-federal share of the disaster costs. So if we end up in a situation that, you end up with a $10 million costs in a disaster, the town is, on the hook for 2.5 million of those. The town can actually apply for the state, and there is an RSA, 27P or something like that, we can ask for the state consideration for 50% of that. But considering the state's budget at this time, that may not happen. In the past, I'm looking at, for example, the ice storms of 2008 and 1998. The federal government was really generous, and the president authorized 90% non-federal share. That's probably not going to happen anymore because of the way things are going. And nor the state will be probably doing 50% coverage of that. So I think something that we probably need to consider, I'm saying, just in the nebula, just things for consideration, that if we end up, we're overdue for one, unfortunately. See, that's my Grim Reaper stuff. But we need to preparedness is key, and that includes financial.
I have one follow-up question. So Lynn, what I understand this means is when the select board gets to the point of decision relative to allocation of the fund balance to pay down the tax rate, they have to make a decision of how much, and that is going to be influenced by where we stand in the recommended range, which is 5 to 17% of our general operating fund. And we're already at, I think you said 6%. So if you think about 1%, you can do the math and figure out that number. And that's going to then push us right at the brink of that. That doesn't mean, though, that we don't still or would not still have monies in the event of a emergency situation, unexpected situation. It just means there's not a lot there to cover it if it is a big item.
Right, and I can't speak to the select board's reasoning behind what they do or don't do with the unassigned fund balance or buying down the tax rate, but I think that they would, absolutely take that into consideration, how much they would buy it down.
Yep.
Last year was 600,000. I think 2 years ago they used 400,000. So when you get really tight on the appropriation part of it, you have less money to buy down the tax rate. So,
Right. Karen?
Thank you, Charlie. Lynn, I do have a couple of things just jumped out at me in looking at the voted appropriation and actual, and I'm not going to go through them all right now, but one of them just I was curious about. Under capital outlay, there's land, I guess it was explained as agents to expend for like $220,000, and I don't know if you have this information at your fingertips, so I'm not suggesting that you should, but just in case it's something that you do have there.
that was actually a conservation. We were looking to purchase that for a couple years. There was a title issue, and I think it's I forget what, Low Plains, maybe?
Yeah, okay, great.
Okay, and that finally went through, so it hits for this budget year.
And it's there.
Yep.
And the other one was on long-term bonds, the principal appropriated like 392, and it came in at like 638. Again, if you don't have it at your fingertips.
What page are you on?
Same page, page 4 of 11. Any insight on that one? If not, I can just send you a note. That'd be perfectly fine. I appreciate
Well,
your attention.
part of it is, if you can see the note in there, 136,000 removed below. What happens is they report the whole thing, and then they remove the sewer portion of it. So it's not as big of a difference as you think. But I can look into what because it would be, 500,000 then?
Yeah.
So 392 to 500,000. So I can look at what that difference is. But part of it is that they remove things down below for the sewer.
Got it, thank you. And if it's okay, I'll send you a little note with a few
Yeah,
other ones that jumped off.
Absolutely, I can
Right.
get answers for you.
Thank you very much.
Sure.
Just one follow-up I wanted to have on the record to Lou. You were discussing emergency spending in the event of some sort of large-scale event, and realizing that the landscape on that is changing both with federal and state policy. Is there, maybe even the fire chief has a response to this, is there some sort of funding mechanism that towns have set up to actually cover that, sort of like a capital expense fund or something like that, that could be funded over a long period of time to flatten out I mean, eventually you have an emergency, you have floods, your roads get washed out, something happens. So I was just sort of thinking about spacing that out and eating that elephant in one bite at a time. Wondered if you had any ideas.
The short answer is that if a town cannot pay its non-federal share of a grant or in a federal disaster, most likely is that they will lose the funding associated with that project. And that's pretty much written into law. There is, actually, since we were talking, I looked at it here, in RSA 21P37, if we end up in a situation that the town, like for example, $10 million, the town is on the hook for 2.5, the town here can apply for an amount not to exceed 50% of the non-federal share of projects eligible for costs related to public assistance grants. But that's it, and that's up to the governor.
Good evening, Jay Lyon, Fire Chief, for the minutes. So in the past, what has happened, for instance, the ice storm in '98 or 2008 or whatever the event's been, we respond to various incidents. And what the state of New Hampshire does is they take the cumulative cost, and that will dictate whether a declaration is made by the governor and whether we're eligible for federal funds and reimbursement. And they do it by county base, so sometimes Sullivan County may not be eligible or vice versa with Merrimack County. But if the cumulative cost is greater than an amount, that cost then would be turned into Washington, and they would then reimburse us. There's some storm events that we go to. We had a wind shear event probably 5 or 6 years ago that affected our general area. It wasn't large enough to submit for federal reimbursement, but if typically we've had a long duration event, then we have received federal FEMA funds. As you know, with the changing climate down in Washington, what that looks like is unknown. My guess is there's less monies federally that we would be reimbursed, but we have been fortunate to get a substantial amount of monies back to the town of New London.
Yeah, we do, but it's been up to 75% and up to 90% in 1998, 2008. Other than that, there is very little that can be done, except, apply to the governor for a waiver of that 10%, if that's the case, and then the governor can basically make it 95%. The town is still in the hock for funds.
Regardless of what happens, we respond to the
Oh, yeah,
calls, we
that's-
compensate the employees, and then it's, yeah.
But it's a
But it's
question
really
of funding.
the federal funds coming in are going to be less.
It's a question of funding. Now, what the chief said, there is a per capita, when you have a federal disaster, there are 2 per capita figures for a federal disaster. Number one, there's a state per capita, and then there's a county per capita in order for to be eligible for a federal declaration under the public assistance program. And it's a little bit, it's easier for the state to be granted a federal disaster declaration, but the county is actually fairly tough. And we've done it in both major ice storms because of the fact that the damage was so intense.
I think, though, to your original question, and there, I actually have a couple of trade magazines for finance officers that talk about how towns and municipalities are preparing for those kind of events and bulking up capital reserves or opening a special reserve and starting to try and formulate, like, what would we need if something happened. So you can do it, just a matter of doing it.
Yeah, in my head, I'm throwing around loose figures here. So if we've got $5 million and we have to pay 75%, we could sustain a $20 million loss. But if we had a $25 million loss, we would be up for $6.25 million, which would be 25% of $25 million. So we would be $1.25 million short. So if we had a $25 million emergency in this town, we wouldn't be able to cover it based on old standards. That's what I hear. I'm not saying that's correct.
Yeah, and again, I'm not saying that the first responders would not do their job. It's just a question of
Right.
whether we are going to get the money back from Uncle Sam.
Right, and part of the reporting to Uncle Sam is the payrolls that we covered. That counts towards your, if you're on the hook for $1 million or 500,000, you start stacking. These guys were on scene. DPW was on scene. You start giving them all the payrolls, managers' payrolls. So that does offset it a little bit. So yeah, no, I understand. Like you said, that doesn't affect any employees. And that actually helps lower that cash amount that you're going to need. So it offsets it.
I'll give you a case in point, COVID, and I will tell you that our finance officer was a lifesaver, because initially it was 75, then the president said 90, and then eventually the president said 100, which is really hard to do. And so Lynn had to go and, Wendy.
That was Wendy, yeah.
Yeah, and everything had to be done, just the accounting for salaries, benefits, overtime. And I remember going to and getting assistance from the chief. Well, how much money did we spend for for even traffic ballards and everything went into justify that 90%.
Charlie, if you don't mind? If I could just add one thing. I think, it's interesting. I think Lou and John's examples were terrific, because it's everything from a major disaster to a heater, a hot water heater that we would have some challenges paying for at the moment. And I think it's interesting, because I can tell you this much: when it comes to the school board, when the school district's budget, I have people regularly say to me, so that's fluff that you have. You have all this fluff that you should cut out. And I say, on the contrary, I said, this gives us room to breathe in terms of if we have a problem, if we have a water heater goes. And it doesn't mean that our school administration spends wildly by any means, because, as I said, you can take it to the bank. We will have somewhere between $1 and $2.5 million every year that's left over. And it, again, varies, depending on, we've had problems with septic systems that became problematic, that had to be repaired over the summer unexpectedly, and that set us back several $100,000, things like that. And we had the money to do these things for the unexpected. We also, in addition, we do have the trust funds as well, which are dedicated for specific issues like unexpected special education expenses, which is almost equivalent to a disaster when a child with high-level special needs moves into town on a Thursday, and suddenly we have a much larger bill for special education than we thought we were going to have. So I think it's a useful conversation to figure out, what can we do to sort of protect ourselves going forward? And frankly, in fairness to our staff, to give folks a little bit of breathing room so that, if we have a water heater go, Lynn isn't trying to figure out how are we going to make do without hot water at the fire department for 6 weeks. So.
One last thing, for John, I just want to make sure that you're, in the organization that you represent, And Kemp Coniston, you can be your own sub-grantee, and you're subject to the same, what'd you call it, deductions in non-federal, and the same thing with the school as its own sub-grantee.
Excellent. Thank you for that conversation. I think it raises the consideration of what we need to be thinking about when we talk about capital reserves, and we talk about the unfunded balance and the closure on an annual budget with implications for future years, but most immediately the next year. So thank you for that. Department area reports. What I, as an agenda item, wanted to just as a committee refocus on where we are, distribution, and any follow-up from those reports. And I will recap what I understand at this point is that we have completed, I believe, all of the department lead meetings except for Lynn and Ashley, which John and I are attempting to schedule.
I think we're there.
I think we're close. We're close. So we'll be close. Reports have been completed for water precinct, planning, zoning, and I think both of those have been distributed. I understand, I think, Karen, you said you and Lou are close on police and dispatch, waiting for feedback from Chief Cobb.
That is true. We're waiting to hear back from Chief Cobb.
Right.
Yeah.
We completed meeting with Chief Lyon, Lindsay, and Kim, and that report is in process. Library was 2 days ago, and that report is in process. I think Rec,
Cynthia and I have rec and
DPW.
and we've received the reports and gotten feedback back to the department head, so we just need to check to make sure that that's final, and then we can supply that.
And then supply it. Great. So I think we're in good stead, but it's, we kind of got a little compressed. So just restating the process and purpose. So personally, I can share with you that I felt really good about the meetings because they were incredibly informative. I thought the dialogue it was a lot of great give and take. I gained insight to things I'd never had, understanding of things that I never understood, and a greater appreciation for the budget itself for that particular area. So I think there's tremendous value. I think the extension of that is the intention of the report so that all of the committee members have the same sort of base of information, knowledge, and perspective. And then that is also intended to help inform how we enter the budget discussion itself with the particular department or area. So if there's some looming unanswered question that anyone in the committee has after reviewing a department area report, that should be brought forward and shared back. I'd like it to come back to the committee. I would be the person receiving it to distribute it, but especially to be able to share it in advance with the department head so they can be prepared for that conversation in the actual budget discussion session. And then lastly, that it's a repository of data as we go forward. I think one thing that I will share my personal experience. Chris was great in helping me become a first-year member and giving me a lot of slack and allowed me to be stupid a couple of times publicly, which I try to avoid. But
It's recorded.
yeah, it's recorded. And yet we get better as we get more experience. And I think for Kim and Meg and Cynthia, especially John also, we will get better. And as a result of better informed, better in dialogue, better in analysis, better in decision-making. And so the actual reports, I think we can serve as sort of a database for us as we go forward. And those can be edited and changed in subsequent years just as a repository of information that we can use for new members as well as for certainly the public who may wish to know a little bit more. And those can be the basis for knowing a little bit more versus having to chase somebody down in a department to try to eke out this information that probably is already there. So I think there's multiple benefits. We'll see how it works and go from there. So last is, as we get the reports in, the 2 team members will be responsible to get it distributed to the committee. And then I think I haven't yet figured out how we're going to catalog them on the website, but I think probably under a category of their own is my thought under the budget committee. Any other thoughts on that? The process, the direction, the intent, the status, and the action going forward? Having said that, let's move to public comments and input. And if there are any, John, do you have anything you wanted to share, ask, inquire? Okay. Make sure you press the green button. And
John
state your
Ellis,
name.
New London.
Yeah, thank you.
The 18,000 of unreserved funds, how does that relate to the unassigned fund balance of 2.4 million? Or does it?
It adds unassigned, unreserved, all the same thing. So it adds to that.
So the word unreserved and unassigned means the same thing?
Yes, they're interchangeable.
Okay. How does the 2.4 million, how does that affect our current budget status getting us through the year?
Unreserved fund is it's not cash in the bank. It's just unused appropriation. So it's not going, I can't use it to get through the budget unless we hold a special town meeting and you guys as residents approve the use of it. It can only be used to buy down the tax rate, or it sits there in case it's, like I said, an emergency or something.
Okay. And is there a percentage or a maximum that Richard and the selectmen can decrease the tax burden by law?
They could choose to use the whole thing and have no unreserved fund balance, but the DRA recommends that you maintain a 5 to 17%
Okay,
unreserved
that's
fund balance. So
okay, that's
we've
where that-
historically stayed, I think we've been like 8 to 9% is where 7-8%, somewhere in that range we've stayed, the lower end of the recommendation.
Okay. And then I had a question on the capital account summary. For 2027, I noticed there's different items. I'll give you an example. Whipple Hall roof, 200,000. And the other numbers you're familiar with probably, because I think it totals 1.5 million in total. Can any of those numbers in those respective accounts, fire station being another one, can any of those numbers be moved or any of those amounts be moved to other accounts that are listed in the capital account summary?
You have to take the money from an account for which it was created. So if we want to do a fire truck, we cannot take that from the town building fund. You have to use it, and I have a book that lists what the wording was when these accounts were created.
Okay. And the numbers that are listed in there, which run out to 2036, as you know, is there an estimated percent that the system, that I think we bought a computer system that adds in so that we know in 2036 that number that's in there has been increased by a certain percent due to the cost of?
No, the budget software does not tell you what you should have in your capital reserves. That's why I create that spreadsheet so we can see where we're going. And the amounts that go out to 2036 are based on the CIP. We married those two documents together.
Right. So when do we update, for example, the 2027 numbers that are in there for 1.5 million?
When do we update
Well,
them?
will we update, is it possible to put a roof on here for 200,000?
That's the number that was given in CIP this year.
Yeah.
So we update those numbers every year when CIP comes in.
Okay, so those are all updated
Yep.
for that given year.
Yes.
Okay. Then the other thing that I was wondering, is there any chance we could see if individuals who aren't here tonight could listen in to these meetings or Zoom them without the right to ask questions, but to listen in on meetings?
Not at this time. Our neighboring towns have all had breaches during meetings publicly, and so that is an area, they have all stopped publicly doing their meetings on Zoom, and have given us the advice to not move forward with opening up our meetings
Okay.
publicly to Zoom.
Okay. And is there a public email if someone wanted to write in to the Budget Committee versus writing individuals?
I don't think
You
that
can
there-
use my email
Yeah.
anytime you want, which I can provide here on the record, and I'm happy, maybe not happy to give it out, but it is cpkelsey1@gmail.com. And I can field those inquiries and questions via that vehicle, if you wish.
Okay. All right, thank you.
And John, also just for your edification, on January 7th, based on our schedule, the capital improvement plan will be discussed in greater detail, even though there was a public session on it earlier in the week, I believe, last night, in fact, yeah. And that was a recorded session. So some of the comments, questions you're raising, I believe were discussed in that meeting as well. Any other public comments? Chief Lyon?
Clarification, the storage shed is 12 by 16.
Good to know. I have two topics that are not on the agenda that I need input on. One of them is, I received a request from Steve Wright, who is I guess the chair of the Select Board Advisory Committee, or is the Community Advisory Committee?
Citizens Advisory Committee.
Citizens Advisory Committee, to attend their next meeting on November 1st and give a presentation to them about the Budget Committee and our process. And being a helpful guy, I said, sure, why not? I'm happy to do that. He and I have not had time to talk about what that means, what's the interest, what's the point, what's the purpose. But I want to bring it to your attention because I'm uncomfortable going into a meeting of that nature representing the committee, and uncomfortable that, what am I sharing and what is being gleaned from what I share, and is that appropriate, or is that a concern? Because sometimes people take information shared and make conclusions or have opinions shaped that then are shared with others, and the trail of misinformation potentially or misinterpretation can occur. On the other hand, I thought it was an opportunity to share the process this committee is embarking upon and how we've looked at it this year as opposed to other years, what our hopes and dreams and aspirations are, and that the more folks know about that, the better. There's engagement. But I'm bringing it to your attention because I'm a little uncomfortable whether I should go forward with that. I certainly would welcome anybody else to go with me if they wish. My intention, based on what Steve shared, and we're going to have coffee to talk about it this Saturday at 7:30 at the grounds if you want to show up, but not a quorum, just to have a greater appreciation of what their interest is. My intention would be to just talk about our process. So, and what we're trying to achieve through that process, but not have opinion on a particular budget item, or content of a budget item, or a personal view on how I might view the budget, or any of that kind of discussion whatsoever. So that's why I brought it, and I'd welcome your guidance. Please.
Yeah, I am a member of that committee, and it's basically a line of, to have nice, transparent, active, clear communications between the citizenry and the Board of Selectmen and the town management. I've made a presentation in the committee before as an emergency management director, and it's really not if you want to call it in a military parlance, it's low threat environment. It's basically informational only, and there's usually a lot of people who tend to be fairly, active in community affairs, that you go there and they just want, to know what we're doing in the town government to make things better and to be transparent. So it's a really nice, it's a nice, hour and a half that unfortunately for many of us, it's a Saturday, that's, so it may be a scheduling difficulty, but I go there as much as I can, unfortunately. Last time I was not able to go because I was out of town.
Other thoughts? Input?
I mean, I would say I trust that you would do the right thing. Maybe it would make sense if he sent an email with the questions that he planned to come with. But, I mean, I think to represent the Budget Committee and what the process we're doing this year is, I don't have an issue with that.
I'll be there.
Okay.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. This is really high level of what does the budget process look like for the town of New London. I think you were right to stay away from any specific items within the budget, and really stay focused on what the overarching goal of the Budget Committee is and what the process is that both the committee and the town, the Board of Selectmen go through every year. It's sort of the same cycle. While those things might tweak within that cycle, it's the same cycle. And just really giving that high-level overview. These do tend to be really good, fruitful conversations and really educating a group of citizens that then go out and share with their networks that they had a great meeting with the members of the Budget Committee, and here's what I learned, and things like that.
Okay, thank you. Other thoughts?
Just one, as Ashley was talking, it occurred to me that a helpful outline might be to use the meeting schedule and to simply go through and talk about what will happen at each meeting, and that, for example, Chief Lyon will show up at the fire department meeting and discuss the future needs of the fire department, and we will hear those there, and then we will discuss that, and
Yep.
and then, basically you can go down through the list, and that might actually be a pretty good outline
Yeah,
for them.
that's a good idea. I like that.
And then, of course, how it all rolls up into what people ultimately see at town meeting. How that's the end result of the whole process.
Thank you. My second topic is I received an email from a citizen expressing a position on a particular department and a particular budget item. And the party indicated they had sent this information to the select board, I think also, Ashley, to you, and was sending it to me as the chair of the Budget Committee. So I'm a little unsure, what do I do with that, if anything. I acknowledged receipt and said thank you, and that was the extent of it. But I felt like there was I want a response. So I know probably, Chris, you get this type of stuff, and
They know to avoid me.
Ashley and Rich. I haven't before, and now because I haven't been.
Now you can't.
So I really, because I'm asking procedurally as well as, yeah, how do we deal with input like that? And then if I've now opened my email up to the world, which I've volunteered, I may get a lot of input. How procedurally should I address that or deal with that? Or should we as a committee, if at all,
Yeah.
frankly?
I think, Charlie, what's probably best is for us to talk about, if you're willing to share. I don't know who this is, I don't know what the subject line is, but my standard mode of operation is to do exactly what you did and acknowledge receipt. And if it makes sense to say, we will take this under advisement or take this into consideration, that's what we say. And I will almost always run things by the Board of Selectmen if it's something that needs to be.
I've had a few of those in the past, and I just, to your point of saying thank you for giving, your thoughts, I would encourage you to attend a budget committee meeting
There you go.
when that subject is, the agenda's posted. So in regards to that particular subject, feel free to attend a budget committee meeting. We're open to public comments, and you're free to provide your thoughts.
I was just wondering if I can take any guesses as to what the individual's name rhymes with.
Go ahead. Yeah, no, okay, that's helpful, Chris, thank you, Ashley.
If it makes sense for us to talk about it, I'd love to know if they think they emailed something to me.
I'll verify that if they did.
Perfect.
But I can't remember right off.
Okay, I think a lot of people also email Kay Hallquist at,
Oh, yeah.
and not town administrator.
Interesting,
Yes.
okay.
So-
Charlie, the other thing we should be, making aware, to, yes, acknowledge, tell, that you're going to be referring the matter, but, I mean, our job statutorily is not to be an operational body. That management of the particular budget item is the purview of the selectmen and the town administrator. So, we probably should be somewhat clear on that, but I'll let you and selectmen and Ashley talk it
No,
over.
that's helpful also, and I just taking up time just to clear a couple of items that raise questions to our process and what our obligation is and how to handle them appropriately. So, thank you. Action items that we have, I am going to revise the schedule as discussed earlier. I will send that to Ashley. Ashley will review it one more time, and then upon that review and its completion, I will issue it out to the committee, and then it will be posted also on the website. The members who are still working on reports will follow through on those and get them back and distributed to the committee. I would hope we can do that certainly before the first budget meeting date, which is the 29th of October, if that's possible. And I think it can be done. So that's what I had. Any other action items that I missed?
Not an action item. To clarify, the meeting on Friday, will that be recorded for folks who cannot attend in person? Okay, great.
Yeah. Okay, can we take 5 minutes and do a meeting evaluation just for my benefit?
Like a survey?
Yeah, it's a survey, yeah. So I have suggested that we take, if we have the time, and we do, just take a minute and give some feedback to our meeting process. And this is designed to really help us continue to be better, learn from what we do well and what we could improve upon as we go and embark on future meetings. So the process I'm suggesting is give a rating, a numerical rating of 0 to 10, and 10 being this was really highly productive, efficient, effective meeting. I'd actually have given up vacation time to come here. 0 would be I'd rather be on vacation. So give it a numeric rating between 0 and 10. Well, maybe you could use another.
Secret ballot?
No, this is public.
Secret ballot?
It's all public. So if you
Round
indulge
numbers
me
or-
with that, yes, round numbers are
Round
preferred.
numbers.
and give feedback on what we did, one thing we did well and one thing we could do better. So I'll start. I give our meeting about an 8. I think, well, we've stuck to our agenda. We've been comprehensive in our discussion. I felt really good about our dialogue. What we can do better is, I think, timing of the information out to the committee could be done better, in a more timely basis. That's on me, so. Yeah, please.
So I felt like it was very well organized and exactly you stuck to, so I go 8 also, because, it's not vacation.
Yep.
And the only thing that I would say would be beneficial is when referencing certain financials in this, if it could be indicated what I should be looking at. 'Cause there's a lot going on.
Okay,
I always had trouble with that last year.
Yes.
excellent, thank you.
Charlie, I'm going to give you a 9 for your first meeting that I've attended. Sorry,
This is about us, not me. We.
No, I thought we had meeting minutes. It was, which was great. It's organized. I think the only watch out is as we go through budget items in the future to make sure, and it's difficult. As a chair, sometimes you want to let people talk, but also sometimes that discussion can get a little too far away from the original intention. And, bite into time. We're trying to be efficient. Not that we don't want to go 2 hours, but if we can end it in an hour and 45 minutes, let's end it in an hour and 45 minutes. So I think that's the only thing to be mindful of.
Great. Well,
Well, actually, I'll be halfway. I'll be an 8.5. And okay, then 8.5.
we'll take
That's a good round number. And 8.6. How about that? And the reason why I think it's it was succinct, it was on time, it was efficient. There are things, and again, this is my 4th, 5th year. I can't even remember. And there are certain things that you just, because of the fact that up until now, the documentation and the wherewithal and how we do things is such that it requires a lot of corporate memory for somebody to get into So this is the first year that I honestly feel I fully understand what the hell is going on. And from the beginning, and it's taken the work of the previous chair to literally go on speed and knowing what's fully happening. There's so many avenues, so many different. You start peeling the onion, and there's little onions all over the place. So, and to my colleagues, I will say just attend the meetings and listen, because that's about the best way to catch up on what's going on. And I will also pay a kudos to the town staff, because without Ashley and without our wonderful finance officer, we really would be we would be
A rudderless ship.
a rudderless ship. Thank you.
Thank you.
I guess I'll take this opportunity to concur with Chris and give you a 9, give the meeting a 9.
The meeting, yes, not
The
me.
meeting a 9, excuse me. I think was really good to see happening tonight was connecting the dots. The discussion about the unassigned fund balance and how that all kind of circles back to the tax rate from appropriations, et cetera, was really instructional. So and also forward-looking. So I would give that a big plus. Thank you.
Anything better? We can do better?
I'm sorry?
Is there anything we can do better?
Anything to do better? I would say getting materials out in advance more,
Okay.
so that there's more time to reflect on them.
You're gonna make
make me feel bad for saying 8, but, no, it was a great meeting. I think, I'm just looking around on like what we can improve and seeing all these screens, and to your point of being able to follow along. Is any of this electronic? I just wonder if there's ways for us to keep that also in front of us as we're moving through.
The entire packet is on our town website.
So,
Yes. So we
Can we
can't,
connect in? I'm just trying to think of like, how do we keep things moving and also being able to flip between documents and different budget items, if that would be helpful.
So last year, what I tried to do, in your books, if you look under like a department, you'll see a summary sheet that compares last year to this year and a little pie chart. Last year, I put that up for each department that you were discussing, so it's not drilled down, but it gives you the overview.
Yeah, yep.
Bring binoculars, because it is kind of hard to see.
Okay.
But we definitely put that up on the screen so that you guys can take a look at that. But again, it is in your book, but yeah, I know. It's helpful to have it in front of you,
Might
but
help us to
it's
follow
tough to
along
see.
as
Yeah,
we go.
I like that idea. I also think it's not a bad idea to have a buddy, because who's been there and done it. So when you're in the middle of a page and you don't know where we're at, the person who's done this several times can help guide you through exactly what page we're on, what line item, and, because this is really hard to see and do. But thank you. Colors are good, yeah.
You know what might help too? And I can give you guys the list, but the worksheet that's at the front with it's like a 23-page worksheet. I can give you the number for each department. So like police is 4210. So now you can flip through and find 4210 and you're not struggling to find, okay, what page is that on? So I can give you that list at least. Might help.
Other feedback? John, you want to give it a rating?
No, I don't want to.
Okay, good. You don't have to.
But I would say last year I was working on learning anything and everything. I didn't know anything. This year I'm working on what I know I don't know. Next year I'll probably be working on the things that I don't know. And then to Lou's point, in the fourth year I'll probably actually be like, oh, I think I have this now. So I have a ton of questions sitting over here, and I may be the one that went a little far afield, so I'd probably give myself a 7, but I wouldn't give the meeting that low.
All right. I think the public's going to be really enthused and confident in our ability. Do you have any feedback, Richard, you'd give it?
May I say one thing that I find it's really good? And it's probably, you're coming in at a good time. We have had a really good direction previous, and what that has caused is a good synergy among all the members of the committee, because everybody it comes in with positive energy. We all want to do good. There are no hidden agendas, and I think we're all coming in from a place of transparency and trying to do good for the town, and I think that is wonderful. I'm very happy.
Thank you.
Oh, okay, I'll give you a 9.
It's the
Jeez.
meeting.
Now that you're...
It's the meeting, it's not me, please. Oh, gosh. Rich,
North Korean judge?
close us out, baby.
I was literally just about to say that I'm afraid I'm going to sound like the Russian judge at the diving competition. Yes, exactly. Honestly, I thought it was just fine. And, beyond that, I mean, honestly, you folks are gracious enough to allow me to participate. And so certainly I don't feel like it would be terribly appropriate for me to be sort of grading anything. But I just, I'm kind of like Ringo. I'm just happy to be here.
I'd also like to thank whoever supplied the apples. I think Karen, is that you? Because you have a lot of apples over there.
No, those are for the public.
Oh, okay. Those were for the public.
Try the apples.
I'll thank the apples and the
Good
candy.
for your apples. All right, super. Okay, thank
Thank
you
you,
all.
Charlie.
Good feedback, I appreciate it.
9.1.
9.1 on the apples.
9.1.
Excellent. I need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Adjourned. No, we want to stay.